Welcome into the Skinny Podcast. It's the weekly poetry edition. I'm Richard Skinner, Local12.com digital sports columnist and editor with Rick Broering. As always, it's presented by Blake, the attorney Mason. We got some college basketball to talk about, little Bengals, a little Reds perhaps, but it is college basketball season. We're a week away from the Super Bowl. And Rick, let's get this podcast started with the following. Raise your hand with me. Touch money. Let's go.
On three, touch money. Shout out to the Wildcats. They are really doing that fan base proud down there in Lexington right now, aren't they?
Wow.
Let's start off with the Bearcats because they're the ones who got the win most recently. They beat Baylor 67-57 on Wednesday night. They traveled to Houston for a noon tip on Saturday. And really, the story here with the Baylor game was the return of Dan Skillings. I think a lot of the people in town are wondering who's going to get the upper hand in that one. Is Dan Skillings going to come home and show out and just drive a stake right through Wes's chest right here? Or will Wes and the Bearcats get the win? And obviously, it was a vintage Dan Skillings performance. Had a couple nice moves, blew multiple layups. Overall, just kind of wasn't good enough out there, never really took over the game on the offensive end. Cincinnati ends up winning this one by 10. Skinny, what'd you think?
It was a win they needed because there's not a lot of games you can circle and go, that's probably a win. This is not a good Baylor team. And Dan Skillings is not a difference maker. I mean, he proved it here and he's proven it there. And, he's literally the same guy. He's the same guy you watch leave. He just left for a bag of cash. Good. Congratulations. Good for you. Bobby Miller is a good player though. And he was really good in that win over Baylor. I'll give him credit for this. I mean, the Arizona State game just felt like the total, to your point, knife in the chest, you're done, season's over, everybody's going to quit on you. And they didn't. And they come back and win the game at home. But I still don't think this is a very good team. I don't think it's got a lot of wins in them still. I mean, congratulations to him. He did what you needed to do. You at least can exhale for a few days. You got a win you needed to get. Take a little pressure off for the moment. But you're not surging towards an NCAA tournament. But you're just playing out the string, for the goodness sakes.
One thing that I legitimately give Wes Miller a ton of credit for, and I'm being dead serious about this, is every time I think things have gotten so bad or the players are done with it or he's lost the locker room or this team's just going to completely fold because what do they have to play for left? They always seem to show up that next time and play one of their better games and kind of show like, okay, they are still trying to do what he wants. They are still playing for him. And then you have this situation after the Baylor game where he and Dan Skillings get to each other in the line. They stand there and they hug each other, embrace, and talk for 20 seconds or so. I mean, heart-to-heart type stuff, it looks like. I mean, we don't know what's going on down there, but Wes said after the game, I follow him, I root for him, all that type of stuff. I mean, for all this talk about being a player's coach and really caring about your guys and stuff in this current era, I think a lot of it's BS and coaches talk out of both sides of their mouth when it comes to that type of stuff. I'm willing to take Wes at his word for that. I think he really loves his guys. I think they really care about him. I think guys like playing for him despite their lack of success on the court. And I'm impressed by that because there's every opportunity over the last 3 years for all of his players to turn on him, for all of them to say, you screwed me, you screwed this team, this is on you, what have you. It doesn't seem like any of them are really into that. I mean, heck, he kicked Jizzle James off the team and brought him back again this year. And Jizzle James hit 5 threes in this game, had a reemergence here again. So it is interesting from that perspective, considering how poorly things have gone and how bad the negative connotations are outside the program with Wes Miller. The guys in that locker room, I don't know, I'm not in there with them, but it seems like they're still willing to go to bat for him.
Yeah, no, the Arizona State game for a lot of programs and a lot of teams would have been that would have been the death knell for the season. Like, you couldn't even go beat an Arizona State team whose coach said, literally, I can't coach these guys. And not only do you lose, you get doors blown off. Again, the guy just said, and this could also be motivation through media. That happens sometimes. I don't think it was. I think it was really Bobby Hurley at the end of the rope saying, I can't get through to these guys, can't coach them. That sounded like a team that was dead in the water too, and they came out and smacked you. And I think to your point, I think your point's a good one. I think most of his issues honestly stem a lot of times from the X and an O of it. I think he's a grinder. I think he's a junkie. I think he is a player's coach. He's a lot of things you would like. He's just not a very good coach.
I think the two biggest problems he has are being able to run a competent offense, which everybody brings up, and then being able to recruit and develop offensive players. Like, I think at times he's had guys that have some talent offensively, and they've never gotten better and gotten to the point that you think they could get to in terms of their upside. And to me, it really comes down to that mostly. I don't know, maybe a mid-major hires him back and he kind of does a Travis Steele, spins it around and becomes a defensive-minded coach that has a prolonged career there. Maybe he becomes a defensive coordinator, for lack of a better term, on a high major staff, and that becomes his specialty the rest of his career. I don't know what he'll do after this, but he does seem to do certain things pretty darn well as a coach, but his flaws are completely fatal.
Correct, and it reflects in the record.
Yeah. All right, Xavier had a 16-point second-half lead against St. John's over the weekend, lost that game 88-83 at home. Then they had a 14-point first-half lead, led by 11 at halftime at Seton Hall on Wednesday night. Ended up losing that game in blowout fashion, 86-68. Skinny, what do you make of these games by Xavier where they get a lead and then they get completely run out in the second half to give it up and lose the game?
They just don't have enough depth. I mean, they don't have enough depth of talent. And Trey Carroll's carrying such a heavy load at the moment that eventually he's either going to get taken away or he's going to run out of gas, and you need some others to step up. Well, what is Philip Borovic? What does he do? What does he do well?
And it's funny because he had a nice stretch there, especially early in Big East play, where I think he was playing a little bit above his level.
Well, and his numbers against St. John, 9 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists would go, it's pretty nice eye-popping. But it felt like he cost them down the stretch of that game.
I think that's what you're seeing. And one of the things, I think Xavier fans have been fooled by him a little bit. He's been overvalued by the fan base because this team stinks and someone has to do something. Right. So Philip's willing to go out there and do something, and he is versatile and he has a well-rounded game. So he's been padding his stats without a doubt. But I would tend to agree more with you that when it comes down to crunch time and it comes down to winning time against good teams, he hurts you more than he helps you in those moments. He's just not talented enough. And let's face it, he's a guy who averaged like 5 points a game at New Mexico.
Right.
While playing a lot of minutes. So he's always been just a role guy, even at the mid-major level. Now you've brought him up to the Big East and his numbers look better. But I think that's out of necessity for the Xavier team and their lack of talent more so than it is he's playing at a higher level.
Yeah, I mean, who else besides Trey Carroll, and really good teams are going to take him out of the mix at times, who besides him can you count on?
It was glaring when he got into foul trouble in the second half of this game. He scored 22 points in the first half against Seton Hall, was 0 for 3 in the second half, didn't score. Now he played 12 minutes in the second half due to foul trouble. He picked up his second and third foul very early in the second half there. But when they had to take him off the floor for a few minutes, it was glaring. That's like, they just don't have an option. You don't have the only guy that can really beat anyone off the dribble a little bit is Roddy Anderson. But if you do that, then it's anyone's guess what that possession is what's going to happen on that possession. He'll throw up a wild ass shot and kind of gets tunnel vision. And you don't have anyone to post up with. There's no post presence to speak of whatsoever. It's like you've got a couple standstill shooters that if someone else can't create for them at a given time, then you're pretty stagnant on the offensive end, especially against these teams that get out in passing lanes, stay home on shooters, and don't let you swing the ball around. So I honestly, when I see stretches like the second half against Seton Hall, it makes me more impressed with the job Richard Pitino and his staff does to start these games. Like, how did they get a 16-point lead on St. John's? How did they get a 14-point lead on Seton Hall? Given what we saw in the second half of their offense working against that defense, it's like they come in with a good game plan, they execute, they play hard to open these games, they show up, they're ready to play, they give it their all, and then eventually the other team kind of responds and just overwhelms them with athleticism, toughness, physicality. And that's the thing that I just don't think can improve for this team. I don't think they can get tough enough defensively. I don't think they can, even though their numbers aren't bad from a defensive rebounding perspective, when it comes down to like, you're trying to rebound against Zuby Ejiofor or, any team with a little bit of physicality and athleticism in crunch time in the second half, they can't get that important rebound.
If they had won these last two games, and again, plenty of teams have come back from double-digit deficits, and those were two better teams, especially Seton Hall on its own floor and St. John's, no matter where they play them. They won those two games. They'd be sitting at 5-5, one game behind fourth place in the conference. I mean, that's astounding to me that they're – I don't want to say they're that close because they're really not. I mean, their margin for error isn't very big, obviously, but that was just astounding to me that they are that close to being 5-5 in the league.
So that's the new – narrative that I've been pretty interested in right now is we're kind of getting to the point where it feels like we have enough evidence that people are really dug in on their sides right now in terms of Xavier fans with like this coaching staff, this fan base, where the team is headed right now. And regardless of what side you're on, if you're on the optimistic, I love Richard Pitino and the job he's doing, and I love the direction of the program right now, you have the evidence for that. Like what we just talked about. It seems like they're doing a good job to get out to these early leads. And it's amazing to say that this team is actually a few blown leads late in games from being in a position where they're competitive in the top half of the conference. And that's amazing to say.
I forgot about the Creighton game. You're a box out away from that win.
Yeah, based on their lack of talent, that's an amazing thing to say. Yet at the same time, if you're the pessimist and you think this team is going in the wrong direction, you don't like the job they've been doing, you're going to say, we got blown out by Santa Clara at home. We lost by 41, biggest loss ever to Creighton at home. We lost by 23. We're never in the game against UConn. We blew a 16-point second half lead against St. John's at home. We blew a 14-point lead against Seton Hall and lost, and we can't win any of these close games. We can't get a box out. We turn the ball over too much in important moments. Like all of those things are accurate. And so in this current climate where everyone is like dug in, it's like, I only believe everything that's on my side and I can't see the other side at all. Xavier fans I think most of them are pretty positive right now still and are appreciative of the job that's being done and realize you kind of have to wait to see what happens in this transfer portal. But they all have evidence right now or ammo on either side of their argument. It's been a little bit split when I've been talking to the fans. The only other thing I want to say is Trey Carroll, he's had like 30 for 3 or 4 straight, or 29, 31. Then he has 22 against Seton Hall. I mean, he's playing really well. You mentioned Baba Miller. Seems like he has 15 plus rebounds every game with a double-double now. Think about the fact that these two dudes were on the same team in the same front court for Florida Atlantic last year.
It's amazing.
And they had a 7-foot center who's now at Texas, who's averaging 15 points a game for Sean Miller. It's like they had one of the best front courts in college basketball, and somehow they didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, did Dusty May recruit those guys? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
You know what? I don't know, honestly, because with the transfer portal the way it is now, I have no idea.
The only reason I bring that up is if he did, and with what he's doing at Michigan, Jesus God, does that guy know talent?
Yeah, especially when it comes to big men.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been really interesting to watch and think about the fact that all those dudes were on the same team last year, and either their coaches did a hell of a job of developing them, or they were a major disappointment given they wasted all that talent.
Fair point.
Yeah. All right, Kentucky got blown out at number 18 Vandy, 80-55 on Tuesday. They'll play.
Don't you dare overlook the win over Ole Miss. Don't you dare overlook it.
Yeah, they also beat Ole Miss. They play at number 15 Arkansas on Saturday at 6:30.
Oh boy.
Skinny, I'm gonna bring Louisville into the equation here for this question. Louisville got blown out by Duke 83-52 on the same night, Tuesday night. Which fan base should be more concerned about their coaching situation right now? Because they're both pretty dark when it comes to Pope and Kelsey.
I'm going to go Kentucky's just because of what you purportedly spent on the roster. Now, the other part too is, and you can't overlook this. They got 3 players that would be playing major minutes, if not starting for them, that are not on the floor at the moment. Jalen Lowe, Jaden Quaintance, and Cam Williams, who broke his foot. Again, I'm not making an excuse because they had a deep roster coming in. You now have you have your rotation tighter, which isn't an awful thing in my opinion. So that's probably helped a little bit. Roles are a little bit more defined. It didn't look that way in the Vandy game, which we'll touch on here in a minute. For Louisville, they just got the Brown kid. They just got him back. He did play in the Duke game, I believe. I watched that as background noise the other night. I kept looking up, watching Duke pouring in threes left and right. So I think he played a little bit, but he is a huge difference maker for them too. So I would say it's probably Kentucky's because I just don't know if they believe in what Mark Pope can do from a recruiting perspective. Like on the high school scene, I don't know why he doesn't get credit for Malachi Moreno and Jasper Johnson, who's actually played pretty well here of late, at least in spurts. He's given them some nice offensive pickup, but for whatever reason he doesn't, maybe because they were Kentucky kids and it should be easy to get Kentucky kids, but he hasn't done great outside of that on the recruiting front. I think that scares Kentucky fans. Like every year he's going to have to go to the portal. Well, you know what? Every year most coaches are going to have to go to the portal, man. So, but I think it's Kentucky's probably.
I do love that narrative that's popping up on fan bases that are pissed off with their coaching staff right now. It's like, we're going to have to restart and we're going to have to start all over again this year's sport. It's like, yeah, so is everyone. That's what you do every year now. Get used to it, buddy. Yeah, like, I don't understand why that becomes a huge issue now or a huge indictment.
Yeah, then there's the overreaction of they're out of the tournament. Well, they could play their way out of the tournament, I'm not going to lie. But if you go to Bracket Matrix, I went to Bracket Matrix this morning just to double check where they were. Bracketology and CBS Sports Bracket, whatever it is. I don't know if it's Jerry Palm that does anymore. All of them had them as a 7 seed. So they're comfortably in the tournament at the moment, folks. So
they're likely going to make the tournament. Now, everyone realizes that's not the standard that they're going for at Kentucky, and that's fine.
Correct. No, but I think people think that they're not. This team's not going to make the tournament. Well,
It's
they can play their way towards that, yes, but they're not at that stage at the moment, people.
I mean, it really is exhausting with fans right now that everything has to be such a crash out immediately of like, our team stinks, we're not going to make the tournament. Yes, you are. Our coach stinks, we need to fire him. It's year 2. Like, he might stink. You might not make the tournament. But as of right now, that's just a silly overreaction to all of this, and it prevents us from having any interesting conversations during the actual season. We'll get to all those conversations. Those conversations all come up by the end of the year. You don't have to do them after every single loss during the season, and that's where we're at, not just with Kentucky's fan base. It used to just be Big Blue Nation that acted like that. Now it's, NKU fans that act like that. It's like, you guys need to chill out. I'll say this. You brought up a good point about Kentucky's injuries that I think are just completely being overlooked by not only Kentucky fans, but a lot of people on a national scale. I mean, you take away any team's 3 starters, probably their most talented NBA prospect, and their starting point guard, and they're not going to be very good, especially if they're playing in a high major conference. So as much as there are concerns with Mark Pope and his messaging and all, I've been on that train since he got the job, and I would have legitimate concerns about how well he's going to do there. I don't know that this season and what they've done to this point is a clear indication that he's failing and that he has no chance.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, were you lucky to win at LSU? Sure were, but you also grinded your way back from an 18-point deficit. You rallied from 17 down to beat Tennessee. You'd won 5 in a row. It was an awful performance against Vanderbilt. I mean, you texted me late that night and said, "Odigwe looks like he's shaving points." And in today's climate, you don't know anymore if they are or not. And
the part where Malachi Moreno inbounded the pass to him and he grabbed it and stepped right out of bounds, and Moreno looked at him like, "What are you doing?" Was correct. A weird moment. It's like, seriously, what is he's doing? Because at the very best, his head's not in it tonight at all.
No, and that's where then the optics of the touch money thing going out of the locker room is insane.
I mean, honestly, that might be a stupid song lyric or something. I have no idea where that comes from. I'm too old now.
I don't either. I did mean to look that up too, and I totally forgot.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like a rap lyric or something. So it means nothing to other than they're just reciting something that's popular right now. But I mean, seriously, in this current climate, that's the worst job of reading a room or being tone deaf that's probably ever existed, aside from their quarterback counting money after he was benched this year on camera.
Yeah, right. I mean, they've had 2 good optics when it comes to NIL.
Yeah, Kentucky leading the charge with that. All right, let's get to the North, Skinny. They lost at Wright State 88-80 over the weekend. They have a huge series this weekend coming up in Michigan. They play at Detroit on Friday and at Oakland on Sunday. This was the first time in conference play where they've been defeated soundly. They've been piling up these losses, and each one you've been able to go, well, they were just one shot or one play or one turnover away from still being undefeated, or right now they could be first in the conference and they're just 2 or 3 shots gone a different way for them. This game wasn't like that. They were soundly defeated by Wright State. They didn't play all that well on the road. And now you're in a situation with the way that the Horizon League has changed up the bracketing format, that the 4 seed, or not necessarily the 4 seed and 5 seed, but likely the 4 seed and 5 seed could play an opening round game on Sunday night in Indy before you get into the semifinals now. That makes the top 3 seeds really important in this league. And NKU's in a spot where they now have to make a run to ensure that they're a top 3 seed, because they're right in the jumbled mix with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 right now.
Yeah, no, I think the disappointing part is just how good the offense has been for the most part, and they just can't get enough stops. And it's now a thing. I know you told me what the metrics are, and I know some of the points per game obviously are tied to pace of play. The fact that NKU scores at a high rate and probably at a pretty quick pace is going to lead to more possessions and more defensive possessions and all those things. But it just feels like against a lot of these teams, they just can't get stops.
Yeah, and especially it's almost more situationally for me. It's like
long runs. That's the thing. They give up long runs.
They give up long runs. They have these droughts where they don't score, and then they can't get a stop because they're tying their offensive performance to their defensive effort. And then late in games, they have not been good when it's time to lock in and just be really focused on one action the other team's going to run or one guy that they're going to look to. They can't seem to shut that off. They're good in a general over the course of a game, being okay defensively, and their metrics say that they're number 1 in defensive efficiency in the conference still. But you're right, in late game situations and in certain important moments, certain matchups, they just can't seem to get the stop they need. They don't come with the rebound, whatever it is. They have not been good at that.
And I don't mean to blow smoke up your ass or NKU fans either, but I still think this team come Horizon League tournament time is going to be an awfully tough out. I
would agree with you, and here's a couple things to back that up. One, they're clearly the third best team by the metrics in Ken Palm right now. The only other team that's inside the top 200, aside from Wright State, Oakland, and NKU, is Robert Morris. They're just barely inside the top 200 at 193. NKU sitting at 170 today. You've got Oakland up in the 120s and Wright State around 140. So Oakland and Wright State clearly the top two teams right now, but NKU kind of sits alone in that third spot in terms of the metrics. And then you also have a situation where the schedule sets up pretty well for them down the stretch. You know, they have the chance. Each of the last, 3 or 4 years under Darren Horn, they've made a late season run in conference play. They kind of gotten themselves right before the tournament. This year, the schedule is the easiest it's been for them to do that. So you like their chances there. And they have 4 guys that can go out and score 20 plus points in a game.
That's the part for me. In tournament play, like, it's contagious, it feels like. Like, if you take a leading scorer out and there's no other option for a good team, they can struggle. But when you got multiple options in tournament time, it just feels like it becomes contagious. I mean, think of the last NKU team that made an NCAA tournament. I think that was Jalen Tate who made a bunch of shots in the.
Well, they made the one where they played Houston too with Chris Brandon and Marquez Warwick and Trey Robinson.
Right. So you had multiple options, and I think that's just a big deal because again, 2 stars probably aren't going to carry you in March because if one star has an off game and they take the other star out, where do you go? I think for NKU, you can go a lot of different places. And if all of those guys are clicking, then I think you're almost impossible to beat in tournament play in the league.
Yeah, now the thing is they have to get Cale Robinson going again. Ever since his 9 3-pointer game where he tied the single game record for NKU at Milwaukee, he's been ice cold. And they haven't been able to, and it's not just that he's not scoring, but when he's not hitting his shots, he's not playing well defensively. He's not doing anything on the glass. He can't be a no-show. That's putting them at a major disadvantage. So that's a big storyline going into this weekend. But Skinny, I think this weekend is a huge turning point for NKU. If they got to at least split. If they're 1-1, you can say, okay, you lose at Oakland. Most teams in the league are going to lose at Oakland this year. They're second best team or even the best team by the metrics. And that's fine. But if you end up going 0-2 against a Detroit team that's dangerous and a gym that NKU struggled with, now you're all of a sudden looking at you're really in a bad spot trying to get into that top 3 seeding line. So this is a huge weekend. If they do steal 2, then you're back up in the top. You're threatening again. So
yeah, and then to close it out, you got Green Bay and Milwaukee at home, at IU Indy, then PFW at home, and then probably a tough little 2-gamer here at Youngstown, at Cleveland State. And then you got Wright State at home. So you do to your point, you have a chance to really get some momentum going here.
Yeah, and if you look at some of the other teams that are sitting right there with them, like the Purdue Fort Waynes and Green Bays that have a similar record to them right now, jumbled up there in the standings, those teams still have to play like at Wright State, at Oakland, or they've got 2 games against the top teams. They have games on the road against the top teams. NKU's schedule really sets up well and sets up to be mostly tough games at home the rest of the way. So they've got to win them. But they do have the path if they can get it going here. And it really starts this weekend. If you can't tell, I'm a little bit fired up about these games. These feel very important all of a sudden.
When are you leaving for the Detroit Metroplex?
3 p.m. today.
All right, there you go.
Yep. All right. All good on college basketball. I don't know. I mean, hey, we got to give credit to the Red Hawks. They did finally show up for a game.
Hey man, listen, it's still a great story. And I get more and more people that are either asking me or texting me the kind of the question you asked last week of, but what if they go all the way and only lose their conference championship game? And I'm like, I just got to tell you, let's see what the resume looks like. If I put up a blank resume, don't tell you a team against another blank resume. Don't tell you records, just show you, the quad ones, the net, all the other things you're looking at. There's a new metric that they've come up with too that I've seen recently. I can't think what it's called, but there's another metric they're starting to use. And it doesn't match up.
Probably.
I don't think it's Bart Torvik. I like Bart Torvik. He's my guy. I like his site. He
is your guy,
dude. I'll tell you what. So he does a thing, and I almost hit one the other night. So I got a $5 bonus bet from ESPN, and I started noticing that any game that he has predictions that are 80% or higher. Now they're usually big ass money line games, but 80% or higher to win have a really good percentage to win. Almost not more than 80%. So occasionally when I get those bonus bets, I'll just throw together just a crazy. So I put together a 16-team parlay. And the only 2 games that were not money line games, I took Indiana getting 5.5 at home against Purdue, which they won outright. And despite the fact Bart Torvik picked Vandy to win by 11 and the spread was only 6.5, I took Kentucky getting 6.5 like an idiot. Yep. I hit 15 of 16. It was $5 to win 110.
Oh, if only Coach Cal was still here, you would have definitely bet against him.
I know. That would have helped me.
Oh man, that's tough.
But anyway, I still think you have to be if you're going to do this right, if we're going to compare resumes of bubble teams just on resumes alone, just because you went all the way and lost one game, if your resume doesn't stack up, sorry, man. But the bottom line is it doesn't take away from what a great story this is. And I think the other part that shouldn't be discounted is like a Peter Suter or an Ian Elmer, who are kind of emerging players and had good years last year. Could they have jumped for somewhere else for some money? Certainly more than what you would have gotten. I mean, the fact he's been able to kind of keep a group of guys together in a day and age where you can't keep a group of guys together, I think that's been pretty impressive. I mean, the point guard, Evan Imsara, the Covenant Catholic grad, he's a third-year player. He got hurt, tore his knee up, but he was a third-year player in that program. How many guys stick together in a program like that? It just doesn't happen.
Well, it's a huge reason they've been successful, and give Steele credit for getting that type of buy-in. The players loving to play for him and having that type of culture. He did that well at Xavier too. Also, getting the money. Like, they have more money at Miami than they've ever had for this NIL thing, and they're competitive towards the top of the MAC now. So it helps when you're making that decision of, like, you know, some of these guys you're talking about are still probably like mid-plus guys. They're probably not like going to the SEC and getting a huge bag, but, you know, maybe they could go up to the next level and make $120,000. Well, maybe Steele's getting them up to 70, 80, 100 now at Miami. That's a legitimate possibility for a school like that, given the resources that he's been able to bring in there. So I give them credit for that. The dumbest thing that I'm hearing right now, Skinny, is the people who still keep suggesting that they should have played a tougher schedule this year.
I'm in that camp, though.
That makes absolutely zero sense. Think about this for a second. If they had lost to Illinois earlier this year and they were sitting there at 19-1 or 20-1 right now, no one would be talking about them. We wouldn't be talking about them at all. They did it. They went undefeated with that weak schedule, and they've gotten more publicity, more marketing, more advantage by doing that than they ever would in a million years by playing a quote-unquote tougher schedule. It's not like playing one game against Illinois or a high major team and getting their doors blown off would have gotten them any closer to making an NCAA tournament. They're in a one-bid league. It doesn't matter.
It's going to be fascinating, though, if they do go all the way and lose that one game.
But had they played one other high major opponent, it's not like that would have raised their resume to the point of being in that large bid. So what does it matter?
I don't think it needed to be one other. I mean, Rick,
but they couldn't have played enough. They couldn't have played enough big games to give themselves an at-large resume. Is my point.
They played a lot of slop. I mean, not just
they did. They did
a lot of slop.
But I'm looking back at that and saying that was genius because
famously,
you're in a one big league either way. And I think you should go about that.
Well, yeah, that's fine. So, okay, so then you're agreeing with me that if they lose a game, they don't make it because their resume.
Well, no. I'm not agreeing with you because they have none of this publicity and no one cares about them one bit if they have even one single solitary loss on their resume right now. They didn't do that. They went undefeated and now they're on ESPN every night. They don't have any of this as they have a loss.
I agree with you there. I'm just talking about from an NCAA tournament.
That doesn't matter, though. That doesn't matter because it's not like they would have played a non-conference schedule that would have been quality enough to get them an at-large resume. It wouldn't never have happened.
Maybe not. And maybe that is the genius.
They're in a one-bid league regardless. So it really doesn't matter who you play. So the only arguments you can make are we played a really tough schedule to get ourselves acclimated and to earn more money through buy games, or we did what Miami just did, which was we tried to go undefeated and they did it. Okay,
so then you're in agreement with me if they do lose in the conference tournament, let's say the finals, it's still a one-bid league and they don't get the bid, the team that beat them does.
No. Okay. I think if they go undefeated through the regular season and get to the conference championship, they've done it. The resumes at the end of NCAA tournament bracketology, when we're sitting there trying to put the final few teams in at large bids, they all stink. The team that went undefeated for an entire regular season has a better resume than they do.
I will be fascinated to see how that plays itself out. I really am.
Because by the way, you could play only teams ranked outside the top 200 the entire year, and if you go undefeated that entire regular season, that's impressive.
I mean, I would say running the MAC is impressive. If you ran the table with the MAC, I'm impressed with that because it is a very tough league. It's tough on the road. The road trips aren't easy. All of those things. I'll give you that. You do that in the MAC. That is impressive.
And this is a business, Skinny. No one wants to see the 7th place SEC team with a losing record get in as one of the playing games. Put in the team that has the undefeated record and give us a storyline. Give us the tournament we want to see. They should be in there. If they go undefeated. Now, look, if they lose one game in the regular season, they're done. They're done. They no longer have an at-large bid in my mind. But if they go undefeated in the regular season and they only lose a one-game tournament scenario in the MAC tournament, I'm still putting them in because conference tournaments are insane. I don't think people realize how hard those things are to win.
Yes. Let me give you one more thing here, because I was asked this: if Miami goes undefeated all the way through, wins the MAC tournament as well, what's the highest seed line they can get?
Now that is a good question, and I'm okay with anything here. If you want to be
I said 10.
Wow, that's higher than I would go.
Okay,
I'm thinking like more like 12 at best for them.
Well, then you're almost first four-ish.
Yeah, I think that's probably what they are, 11 or 12.
Okay. Now you'd have a hell of a crowd in Dayton, I think. Well, you have a hell of a crowd anyway.
If they go undefeated and they win their conference tournament, my guess is they give them like a 10 or something like that. Because I do think they're not going to put them in the first 4 if they did all that. But yeah, in terms of their resume, you're absolutely right. They don't have a strong resume, and they seeded line wise should be whatever they are based on that. But they shouldn't be held out of the tournament if they go undefeated in the regular season.
All right, one more question for you. Does Travis still now get himself in the next cycle of not major, but certainly bigger than Miami jobs?
It's a fascinating question, right? Like, what are other schools going to think about this? And what does Travis think about this? Does he think this is the right time to go back up and try it again? Or is he actually feels like he's building something there that's pretty awesome? And the one thing that you do have to remember with Travis, I don't want to get too much into his personal life, but everyone's talked about this with the reason he took the Miami job right after Xavier is he doesn't want to move his family. He is married into a prominent family in this area that is headquartered here, that wants to stay here. And I don't think he wants to go far outside this region. So Miami, Ohio is kind of a perfect spot in terms of its location. I know it's probably not quite the level he'd like to be coaching at, but this has probably been a really fun year for him. It's probably been more fun than any of his years at Xavier, and he doesn't have to worry about money at all. So I don't know that he's going to be super motivated by that. Right now, I think the jobs you're looking at are Butler, which I don't think he's going to get. I think that's more likely going to their Ronald Norred, who was on was on Brad Stevens' staff. I also think Pittsburgh is going to be a team that might look his way a little bit, and that's questionable. Is that close enough? Is that a job he's interested in? And again, there's plenty of other candidates that are going to be up for these jobs, and people are going to remember what happened at Xavier when he was at the high major level. So it's fascinating. I really don't have a good answer. I'm going to say he does not take a job this offseason.
Okay, fair enough.
I think he'll wait.
I've got one other quick basketball question for you. I'm sure you've seen it, and I meant to bring it up last week. Maybe it happened after the podcast last week. The referee in the high school game that did the fall. Have you seen that?
I have no idea what you're talking about somehow.
Oh my gosh. So a referee comes over. He's a high school ref, I believe. I think it was in Kansas, I want to say. Comes over to make a call. I believe it was even in a girls' game. And the girl whoever it was, the player touches him, and he flops, like does this giant flop, like he just got pushed down. And then it looks like he actually hits his back of his head on the court, and ends up, I think, hurting himself in all actuality. It was the damnedest thing I've ever watched in my life.
I was trying to pull it up for us. I'm not. You're talking about the flop guy?
Yes. Are you watching it in real time?
Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to pull it up for the viewers at home to watch too.
Have you got to the flop part yet?
And I see a technical.
Hang on.
He's walking over.
Yeah, here it comes.
This is a news story, so like people are talking. Oh, okay. What was that? So here's what he does. He walks over to a coach. One of the coaches, he calls a technical, walks over the sideline. Looks like the coach is arguing with him a little bit, not too vehemently. Right. He then gets close to him and then just flops backwards, sprawls out, arms back, and acts like he's dead.
What are we doing?
So what happened there?
I don't know the end result of that. I think he should never referee again, to be honest with you.
Well, he quit. He said he resigned.
He should.
What was the point? He was just trying to get the coach thrown out, or
I guess so.
I'm sorry for not having that prepared. I didn't
mean to catch you off guard. I thought everybody had seen that one.
Yeah, that's on me. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Bengals here. Skinny, what should fans be looking for right now in terms of the timeline? Are we just in like maybe you could sign a free agent and then we're waiting until we get to franchise tag mode in February? Or
yeah, no, I mean you're at the stage where you still have a chance to re-sign your own. The new league calendar, contracts expire. I think it's March 12th of this year. That's when you get in that legal tampering period, and then free agency begins. So technically, you cannot sign free agents at this point. You can re-sign your own. Like a Dalton Reisner, you can re-sign him. So that's kind of the stage you're in of what are we waiting for on Dalton Reisner? I mean, he wants to be back. He played well for you. It gives you stability. It allows you to let Jalen Rivers continue to develop. You can do those kind of things at the moment. So that part, and then obviously for the coaches and scouting department, personnel department, it's deep diving into the draft, and we're a month away from the combine. So it's almost all draft. There's obviously some free agency preparation because as soon as the combine's over, you hop right into free agency in the middle of March.
So that's kind of like the next thing then is that you got that week where it's like franchise tag week and then scouting combine and Indy right after that, right? And those are kind of the next things we'll be hearing about.
I mean, the next thing I think you want to hear about is that they signed Dalton Reisner.
Sure. Yeah. Which AFC North team made the best hire? The Cleveland Browns named former Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator Todd Monken as their new head coach. The Baltimore Ravens hired former LA Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter, and the Pittsburgh Steelers hired Mike McCarthy, formerly of the Cowboys and the Packers.
I think Jesse Minter by far. I think
really,
yeah. There's a lot of people really think highly of him across the league. And I don't say that just because he went to Mount St. Joe and he's got local ties. His dad Rick was the head coach at UC for many years. Again, he's very highly regarded. The Todd Monken one is just one that leaves everybody scratching their head like, wait, what? He didn't have success in college as a head coach. He's been okay as a coordinator, but he also had Lamar and Derrick Henry, and that helps. In fact, you remember that Thanksgiving night game was almost like, why are you not giving the ball to Derrick Henry more? What are you doing here, my man?
I think everyone questions what he's been doing for the last 2 seasons, to be quite honest.
No, you're right. And then finally, towards the end, when they were desperate, they said, all right, Derrick carry us to the playoffs, and he almost did. So that one left you scratching your head. Then the McCarthy one, they don't have a quarterback. I mean, even if Aaron Rodgers comes back, they don't have, they have a weird relationship, and Aaron can't play anymore, for goodness sakes. So that just doesn't, that's just weird. Now, the only thing I will tell you is this. I said this on a radio interview yesterday. I got to give the Steelers organization benefit of the doubt because they've hired the last 3 coaches in Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin, and each of them won a Super Bowl. You go 3 for 3 in hiring Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, you kind of get, or Super Bowl winning coaches, you kind of get a little benefit of the doubt for doing it right. This just felt odd.
Well, is the thing with McCarthy that he just underachieved with Aaron Rodgers in most people's mind? I mean, they did get one,
that he couldn't win playoff games in Dallas. Now you can argue that's a Jerry Jones roster.
Nor can anyone. Yeah.
No, that's right. That's right. And maybe that's what the Steelers feel like. Like this guy has won a Super Bowl. He has had success. He has. He did take the Cowboys to the playoffs. They were an explosive offense. We need somebody that's going to fix our offense. And maybe I feel like he's the guy to fix the offense. And I'm guessing in the interview process, he sold them on the fact that he could do that.
Clearly, you're more excited about Jesse Minter than I realized people were. I didn't realize he had that high of a reputation. I mean, is it reasonable to think that Zach Taylor should be viewed as the best head coach in the AFC North now, or how do you see that?
Yes. I mean, McCarthy has more bona fides, right? I mean, he's done more things for a longer period of time.
That's why I thought he would have been the easy answer to who had the best hire.
But I think for Pittsburgh, it's just, listen, I know everybody makes fun of the whole Tomlin's never had a losing season. That's in that period of time, you got to push a lot of right buttons to not have losing seasons. I mean,
don't understand why anyone makes fun of that. To me, it's one of the more impressive things.
Now, he's lost his last 7 playoff games. The change was probably needed. No question about that, but the dude is a great coach. The
Bengals wanted to build a statue of Marvin Lewis for getting to 4 playoff games in a row?
5 in a row.
5.
7 overall, 5 in a row. Lost them all. So, yeah, I mean, I just think for Pittsburgh, it's a roster issue. And I think Tomlin found a way a lot of times to kind of mask those issues. Can McCarthy do that? And I don't know if he can. And the Monken one to me just it feels so Browns-esque.
Yeah. The only thing the Bengals have going for them, quite honestly, as an organization, is that the Browns are in their division and keep some of the jokes off of their back.
And honestly, Baltimore's probably closer from a roster perspective, like maybe a new voice and new ideas, fresh mind is going to get that turned around because it is a well-run organization. We know that. Their success over the years proves that. Mike McDonald has spun off and become obviously very quickly a terrific head coach in Seattle. I mean, kind of the same route, a young defensive coordinator who hadn't been a head coach. Seattle took a flyer on him, and 2 years later, they're in the Super Bowl. Jesse Minter feels like he's kind of following that same path. It may flame out. He may prove to be like the best thing he's ever going to be as a defensive coordinator. But I know a lot of people around the league really thought highly of the kid.
Interesting. Well, I'm looking forward to see how that pans out. But it is funny to see all the other teams change head coaches in the same year, and the Bengals stick with Zach Taylor. And now we have like a very clear line of demarcation, as you would say, of how we're going to look at this thing.
Yeah, so it is. And I wrote a column last week after Buffalo fired Sean McDermott that, just the sense of urgency that Buffalo had, and that Baltimore has decided we need a new voice in the room because John Harbaugh is clearly a qualified coach and one of the best in the game and borderline Hall of Famer potentially down the road. Certainly not on the first ballot because Bill Belichick didn't get on the first ballot, but certainly a Hall of Famer down the road, in my opinion. And so those two. Then Sean Payton, after they get to the AFC Championship game, and if they play one lousy game in the snow with a backup quarterback, fires his offensive coordinator. Sean McVay in season fired his special teams coach. I mean, it just feels like there's a sense of urgency. And change for change's sake isn't always the right thing to do. But here's to me, and I said this after the Duke Tobin press conference, 2 playoff appearances in 10 years. I'm sorry, man, and you miss it 3 times in a row. It's time for a change at least somewhere in the organization. I don't think it has to be Zach Taylor. I'm in that camp of I don't think he's the main issue. I think it's more Duke is the main issue, and the way they scout players is the issue. I know people can always argue, well, it's the way they develop players. I don't know about that. I think it goes down to they just haven't gotten the right players in. And yet you decided to run it back. The only thing I can think is you decided that the best course of action was to stay where we are, that we got the right people in place. But I'm sorry, man, you get one more chance and one more chance only, or the whole entire thing should get blown up. Duke Tobin, the scouting department, the coaching staff, everything starts from scratch. It won't happen that way. Somebody will pay the price. It'll probably be Zach. But you got status quo. This is what you got one more chance at it, man. You can't go 4 years in a row of not making the playoffs in this window. I'm sorry, you just can't.
It has to work out this year, or it looks so embarrassing. I mean, like I said, there's going to be an obvious thing of like, you're the only coach that stuck around. All these other guys were new. Like the Browns were a disaster. I mean, maybe people are excited about the Ravens, but I think the Steelers, most people are expecting there to be a transitional period and they've got to get back on the tracks and get things going in a somewhat new direction. If the Bengals can't figure it out this year in the AFC North, it's going to be so glaring and so obvious that, I mean, there's no doubt Zach's going to have to pay the price, I think. The one thing I don't understand about the Browns situation is they were trying to keep Todd Schwartz, right?
Jim Schwartz.
Jim Schwartz, yeah. Why? So they tried to keep him as defensive coordinator, didn't want to hire him as head coach, hired a new head coach, and now he's pissed that he got passed over, so he doesn't want to stay on as defensive coordinator. What? If they were going to get Todd Monken, why didn't they just hire Jim Schwartz as their head coach? I don't understand that.
It's a great question.
If they think enough of him that they thought he needed to stay around.
And then bring in, if you like Monken as an offensive coordinator, bring in as the offensive coordinator.
Sure. Overpay him a little bit if necessary, if you really think he's a stud or something. That makes no sense to me, to cause unnecessary drama and confusion and make yourself look like more of a clown show. And no one's excited about your head coaching hire. It's not like you went out and got the guy that people wanted.
And what a great opportunity for Todd Monken, though, to work with Pro Bowl quarterback Shedeur Sanders.
That's a great point. Great point. Walking in with a Pro Bowler at his ready. Yeah, I mean.
In a good spot, right?
One other thing, someone tweeted out a video of defensive tackle prospect Darrell Jackson Jr. from FSU and said the Bengals need to get him, to which Jermaine Pratt, the former Bengals linebacker, replied, "Sorry, they won't draft no dogs on the D-line." Your thoughts on Jermaine Pratt's assessment of the Bengals scouting?
Jermaine, how about you make a tackle at some point? You're on your 3rd team in 2 years for a reason. I mean, just shut up and play. Just shut up. I mean, when these guys leave and are bitter, just shut up. I'm
with you, but I remember when this one wouldn't be annoying if it wasn't so accurate.
I remember when Domata Peko went to Denver. He goes, finally with a franchise that knows how to win or wants to win. Shut up. You guys won plenty when you were here. You just didn't win in the playoffs. And guess what? When you went to Denver, you sucked for a couple of years.
Yeah. So you should have been happy that the Bengals made your career, because you would have been like an average journeyman dude and the Bengals kept you as a starter for a decade or whatever it was.
Correct.
Yeah, I will say, like, he's not. Do you think there's anything to it that the players in the room think they suck at evaluating defensive linemen? Do you think that's a thing, like in the locker room?
Maybe, but here's the thing. I'll go back, and we can't relitigate this. But if Byron Murphy had been on the board 2 years ago, I think they take him. If Walter Nolan was on the board this past season, I think they take him. So they've had opportunity. They haven't had opportunities to draft dogs on the defensive line, especially on the interior defensive line. And they don't have them. I mean, DJ Reader was one, but they didn't draft him. BJ Hill is a good player in a rotational thing. I mean, in a way, to his point, he's not wrong, but at the same time, they haven't been in position to really do that.
I mean, drafting Smart Stewart as high as you drafted him, there wasn't anyone available that could have been good?
Well, I think he was talking more about defensive tackles, if I'm not mistaken. Jermaine.
Well, Darrell Jackson Jr. is a defensive tackle, but he just said no dogs on the D line, so I didn't know.
Yeah, no, again, for these guys, just shut up. You stunk in Las Vegas. They cut you. You got a lifeline from Lou, and then your team doesn't make the playoffs either. Just shut up.
You know what I would have loved is if Duke replied on X.com, if he would have got on there and been like, sorry, no dogs were left. Dogs were unavailable when we picked.
Yeah, and we had dogs, as in dog blanket linebacker, the last 2 years. The veterans and the rookies.
we had dog blanket linebackers. Sorry, our D line would have looked more dog-like if we didn't have dog blank behind them.
Correct. There you go. Exactly.
Come on, Duke. Get on your Twitter game. Win us back, Duke. Start clapping back at Jermaine Pratt and Carson Palmer and Andrew Whitworth. Clap back at the former players. All right, Reds, we'll wrap it up. We got one Ask Any Anything, unless you've got something sent in that I haven't seen yet. But Reds question before we get there. The Reds are looking for a new media rights deal as FanDuel's about to go bankrupt. And they need somewhere for the games to be shown this upcoming season in 2026. Supposedly, that's also the reason that they are unable to sign any free agents or add a bat to their lineup.
Sure.
Skinny, there's I think it's called Victory Plus is the name of the streaming platform that's been going out and signing up a lot of these teams that are looking for a media rights deal, and it's a streaming only solution, I guess. Where are we at with the TV rights and media rights deals? Are you interested in a streaming only option for about $140 for the season to watch the Reds?
Nope. I just won't watch. I mean, honestly,
that's where I'm at.
I just won't watch. Listen. The problem with all the stuff when you start straight, if we could get it in one bundle, oh, wait a minute, that was cable. That was kind of effective. I just don't, I'm a clicker. I click. Even if the Reds are on, I click. I click the different things. If I'm streaming the game, I don't want to have to get out of the stream, go back to my cable. I'm already paying for cable as it is. And you know what? I like sitting out on my porch on a nice summer night listening to a ball game. I can live. I'll live without it. Growing up, guess what? I live without. The only games that were televised, they televised 3 home games a year usually. One of those was the opening day game and most of the road games. And you know what? I made it okay. I was still a fan. I listened to the radio. I read the newspaper. I was able to keep up on things. I don't have to watch. You know, if I really want to, maybe it'll drive me to go into a game. I don't know. But I'm not paying for another streaming service just to watch Reds games. Nope, sorry, not going to do it.
I think you really hit the nail on the head with the biggest issue with all of this is that I can't log in and out of 3 streaming platforms every night when I'm trying to keep up with games. Like college basketball season is a disaster right now. I've got Xavier. Sometimes they're on FS1. Right. Sometimes they're on TNT. Like, and if they're on a cable channel,
my gosh, Saturday, I'm like, I knew that they moved tip off up, and they even said the game will be joined in progress on TNT after I think it was Georgetown Providence. I think was a tip.
Yes.
It was supposed to be back to back. Xavier's supposed to tip at 2:30. That game tipped at 12:30, so the window got screwed up. And then I looked down my phone and I went, oh, wait a minute. It says True.
There's True on True or HBO Max. Or
well, I get True. True's on my cable, so I turn on True. Going, I'll be damned. There it is. Wouldn't have known if I really hadn't taken a further look at my phone. I just thought it was going to be picked up in progress on TNT.
Right. But last night they're streaming on Peacock. You know, and it's then it's like I'm trying to watch Miami of Ohio and a Horizon League game on ESPN Plus. And then another game I was trying to watch was on CBS Sports, which I don't have on my cable, but I can stream through an app. So I had to log. It's like, I just want to watch the game. I just want to click on it quickly and switch back and forth and get multiple screens set where they need to be and go. I'm with you. The app thing is a disaster. Having to log in and out of apps all night to watch different games. I'm done with adding more apps. And I'm also from a baseball perspective, had a kid a couple of years ago. The summers are a nice time to go out and do stuff with the family. I'm all hunkered in during college basketball season where I'm working and focused on that. I'll live without the Reds. Honestly, they haven't been interesting in the last however many years. I'll live without watching their games.
I got no problem listening on the radio.
Yeah, same. I'll catch them on the radio. I'll go to a game or two, like you said, but I'll still keep up. I'll listen to podcasts, but I'm fine without watching them every night.
Yeah, no.
All right. You already brought it up, but the only anything that I had was what Skinny's take on Bill Belichick not being a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Well, part of it is this wonky voting process where there's 5 finalists. Ken Anderson of the Bengals is one of them on this list, and you can only vote for 3. And the problem is the players are probably going away. Like this is like their last best chance for the 3 players: Ken Anderson, L.C. Greenwood, and Roger Craig. And Bob Kraft is the other one. I'm guessing Bob Kraft is held in a little higher regard than Belichick for whatever reason, just because of what he's built there, and he was probably a vote. Again, there's 50 voters. You can only vote for 3. If a bunch of people go, well, Belichick's going to get in, and even they go, Kraft's going to get in, these players are going away. I'll vote for the 3 players, and so does another guy. And so the only way you automatically get in is if you get 40 of the 50 votes. One person at least will get in, whoever garners the most votes. So if nobody gets 40 or 50 or 80% of the votes or more, then the person with the highest number of votes will get in. And again, some of it I think is Deflategate and all the things that are the Spygate, all those things that have surrounded Belichick probably played in for some of those voters. I think the whole he's only been out of the game for a year factored in. Like, why can't we wait for the 5-year window for him to get in? The other that he'll eventually get in. These players may not. I feel if I was a voter, I'll be honest with you, I'd have voted for the 3 players too with that same thought process of Kraft will eventually get in and Belichick will eventually get in. This is last roundup time for 3 Hall of Fame caliber players.
Do you think if Belichick just calls it quits and just like after the Patriots thing, is like, I'm done, coach, I'm riding off into the sunset, and doesn't keep this thing going with the girlfriend and the struggles at North Carolina, where we've kind of like knocked him down a peg as a prestigious NFL coach over the last 18 months? Do you think people view him a little bit differently then?
I don't. That's a great question because I thought the same thing, but I don't, just because, I mean, the resume is the resume. I mean, it's still, it's pretty damn good for sure. But I just go back to the whole, I just go back to, yeah. I mean, but I still go back to the whole, again, it's a wonky voting process. Belichick's going to be around on the ballot for a while. So is Kraft. The 3 players are not. I probably would have leaned into the 3 players too with that same thought process of, and again, I'm not even going to take in Spygate or Deflategate into it. And I'm going to guess a handful of voters probably took that into effect too of, I'm going to punish him by not letting him go on the first ballot because of those things.
Yeah, that's, in my opinion, that's pretty stupid if they were doing that. I thought Mo Egger actually had the best take on this, which is that we've probably hit the point where halls of fame serve no purpose. We've kind of passed them up. I mean, really, if we've gotten to a point where it's just like the morality police, and in baseball we don't have the home runs leader or the hits leader. The NFL, we're now not putting in the best head coach of all time. Well, he had a couple other.
Again, we're not putting him in.
Why would you not put him in on the first ballot then?
Because it's a wonky process.
Right. If your process is wonky to where the best coach ever doesn't get in, isn't a clear Hall of Famer, then it's pointless. We really don't need it.
Then they need to change the process. I mean, to me, the whole voting for 3 of the 5, and you got to get 80% of the vote, was going to leave a lot of stuff open to debate here.
I think the bigger issue is the self-importance that journalists have always had with themselves. And
did you see one of them's a former player? I believe. I think it was Ryan Leaf who said the reason why he didn't vote for him.
Oh, great. I mean, he's a type of guy that would fit perfectly into this. He needs to get his vengeance somehow. He's been labeled a bust his entire career, so this is how he can get back at people, I guess. But journalists, this is something that they control, so they've become the big morality police on all this stuff.
I don't know if this is a morality play as opposed to it's still a.
But like in baseball, we clearly do, like Barry Bonds and stuff. We clearly have had morality conversations when it comes to the Hall of Fame stuff. And at that point, like, we're not talking about the best players anymore. You literally are keeping the best players out intentionally of your Hall of Fames. Well, you're pointless now. You're not telling the story of your game. You're not telling the story of the best players that ever played. So what are we doing here? It's a bunch of journalists deciding who they like the best and deciding, well, this guy didn't align with my politics. This guy didn't align with what I thought was right, and deciding who should go in based on that. I'm good. I don't need it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know the whole outrage over the Belichick thing. Like I said, I think there's a lot of different reasons why this didn't.
Because he's the best coach ever. That's why. It's very simple. If the best coach ever is up for Hall of Fame, you put him in. That's it. That's
I guess the other question would be, I know from the NFL perspective, but he's not even retired as a coach.
But he's on the ballot. Like that was my point. If he was, I think a lot of it has to do with that. The fact that he's still coaching, that he's kind of become a little bit of a clown show within the last 18 months. I think it knocked it down a peg and made it easier to be like, Belichick, he's weird.
I would say, to your point, I think transparency is always a good thing. Like, you may not agree when somebody says why they don't put a player in or don't vote for a player. Like in baseball, I only voted for one guy, which I think sometimes is asinine. If you're transparent, I'll give you a little credit for that. At least you're saying why you did it. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to like it, but at least you're telling people why.
Yeah, and we don't have that, so.
Fact.
Yeah.
I do think this. I hope that those who didn't vote for Belichick, for whatever reason they didn't, leaned into Ken Anderson. I hope that he is the beneficiary of this because he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it'd be great for him. I know he wants to be in the Hall of Fame. I know it means a lot to his family who's around here, and that would be cool for him. But listening to Mo talk about that yesterday, it really made me think like he's right. I could care. I don't really care about Bill Belichick not getting in or not, but this is why I don't care, because someone like Bill Belichick doesn't get in on the first ballot. It completely ruins the credibility of a Hall of Fame when something like that happens, in my opinion. It's like, why have it?
And baseball's been like that for too long of a time. Yes. We can't let this guy go in. If Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, and those guys aren't first ballot Hall of Famers, who the hell is?
Exactly. And if the guys we've talked about, if Barry Bonds is in your Hall of Fame, if Pete Rose is in your Hall of Fame, then what is the point? Like,
correct. Yeah, that's fair. Fair point.
All right, that's all I got, unless you got any more.
Nope, that's all I got. We'll talk a little Super Bowl next week.
Yep.
We'll have some more college basketball to discuss, and who knows what else will come down the pike. Something else controversial with officials flopping all over.
Big Norse weekend.
Big Norse weekend. Big trip for you and Jim Kelch. Tell him I said hello. For Rick Broy, I'm Richard Skinner. It's been the Skinny Podcast, the weekly poetry edition, presented by Blake, the Attorney Maisel.